Hello and welcome to day two. I'm so excited to have you here again. This is day two of the masterclass Thrive from Within, where we are talking about emotional eating. So, I'm so excited to have you here again. Yesterday was a blast. I hope you got a lot from it. So, yesterday we obviously talked about what story you're telling yourself around emotional eating and that old identity and where that come from, like creating that awareness around the story. Today we're gonna do the real work. We are gonna rewrite that story. We are gonna have some more actionable tools that you can use, and really letting go of that old identity and figuring out what does this new identity look like. So I'm outside today. I'm actually not outside, but I feel like I'm outside. I'm in a greenhouse, and it's so nice and calming, and I love it. And it's a really good place to be for this masterclass. But before we really start, I want us to just take some grounding breath together. So let's just take 3 deep breaths together, and let's get grounded in this experience. Okay. Amazing. I love it. It's my favorite way to just ground myself, even though I already feel pretty grounded sitting amongst the plants and the greens. That's another life hack for you. If you ever feel really overwhelmed or stressed, get outside. Nature is the best way to calm down fast. Like, just get outside, put your feet in some grass, and just breathe. It is a life changer. But that's not what today's about. Today is about emotional eating and rewriting the story. Let's get into it. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about letting go of your old identity, reshaping your new identity, and really embodying her. We're going to talk about be, do, have method. Then we are going to create your emotional eating toolkit. So I'm going to give you different tools, different strategies, and then you can pick and choose what works for you. So we're not just giving you one tool, but we're giving you a lot of different tools, because I know how different things work for different people, and it's important to have different things to try, so you're not feel like you're like, oh, I'm just a failure or giving up if this one thing doesn't work for you. There's always the next thing to try. Then we're going to talk about how to learn to say no to things, how to learn to say no to food without feeling restricted, and we're going to celebrate the small wins and how to celebrate the small wins, because that's so important. So let's get into it. Letting go of your old identity. So, like we talked about yesterday, this old identity is here for a reason. It is not here to hurt you. It is here to keep you safe. This identity that you have created throughout your words, maybe telling yourself, I am an emotional eater, I overeat all the time, I can't stay consistent, I'm a failure, that is creating this identity. But that identity is keeping you safe in something. And that's what we talked about yesterday, that these things can maybe keep you safe right now, but is it keeping you safe long term? And is it benefiting you long term? Most likely no. Emotional eating, it is keeping you safe in the moment because there's something else going on that you're not aware of maybe, and therefore it is trying to just keep you safe. Maybe you're really stressed, and then instead of actually dealing with those emotions, which is uncomfortable, then your brain is just like, let's just eat something because it knows it makes you feel good. So letting go of this old identity is also something that is going to be very hard, because your brain again just want to keep you safe. But it's about really thinking about, this is the old identity is keeping you safe, and thanking it for being there and for protecting you, and saying it's okay, I can take it from here. So I want you to just write down, what did emotional eating and this old identity give you? Was it relief? Was it comfort? Was it maybe numbness from something? Can you thank it and release it? So it's not about hating your way to letting go of this old identity. It's about thanking it and having compassion for this old identity. And is there a way you can actually thank it for protecting you in this season of your life? And then let it go. That it is okay. I thank you for helping me, but that is no longer the person I am choosing to become. That is how you let go of this old identity. It is not from saying, I don't want to have it anymore. You are like, I don't want to be this person anymore, hating your way away from it. It is really about like thanking it, releasing it, and saying, it's okay, I can take it from here. And every time these old things try to come up again, it's again saying, thank you, I understand you're just trying to protect me, but I got it. It's okay. So, your new identity. It's so important that we don't just say, I don't want to be this identity anymore. We have to figure out, okay, where do we actually want to go? What is this new identity we're trying to embody? Who is this person? So, your new identity. Who are you beyond emotional eating? We have some questions, some journal prompts, because this is very much a self-reflection exercise. Who do you choose to be now? How does she think, feel, and behave around food? What are her core values? So really take your time, write this down. Who do you choose to be now? If you just close your eyes, think about the version of you want to be around food. Who is she? How does she think? How do you think you would think if you felt like you were calm around food? How would you feel? How would you behave around food? And what values does she hold? Maybe even go as far as to think, what clothes are she wearing? What food are she eating? Like really embody what this person would look like. So stop this video and write that down. And then I want you to ask yourself, if I no longer emotionally ate, who would I even be? Can you see yourself beyond emotional eating? Who would you be if that wasn't a part of your life? What else brings you joy in life? This. What things are making you, makes you feel alive, makes you feel happy, makes you feel joyful beyond eating? Because when we are emotional eating, we can often be in this place where we feel like nothing is making you feel good other than eating. And that food is often tied to, like, for example, a party or a birthday. There's always food. If you have done something really good, sometimes you may reward yourself with food. Food is often involved. But can you find those things that makes you feel really good about yourself and happy and just really joyful, and that has nothing to do with food? So maybe you really like to dance. Maybe you really like to sing. Maybe you have like an activity. Maybe you like to go bowling. I don't know. What are those things that makes you feel really good and that you just love doing that has nothing to do with food? And write all of those things down, because those are the things that makes you you beyond the emotional eating. And what kind of woman navigates stress without turning to food? Again, we're going to try to embody this woman just in your own words. And you don't even have to believe that it's you yet. This work is something that isn't just gonna come from one like masterclass. This is just the groundwork. We are just right now figuring out, what would this woman even look like? How would she act? How would she believe? How would she have, what behaviors would she do? And you don't even have to believe that that's you yet, because that can be very overwhelming. Or you can kind of feel like you are lying to yourself, like, yeah, this is great, Clara, but this is not me. And that's fine. Okay? This is one masterclass. You know it's not gonna be fixing everything. but it's the groundwork. So I want you to just like imagine this woman. What kind of woman navigates stress without turning to food? What are her traits? Again, and just write it down. Keep on writing these things down. And then the real shift happens when you do these things again and again and again and again. Because the moment you have this picture of the woman you really want to become, it is no longer like, if you can dream her, if you can imagine her, you can be her. Because now you know what actions she takes, you know how she believes, you know what she's thinking. So, and it's not to simplify it, but all you really gotta do is do these things. Be her. And that's why we are creating this picture of her. Because if you have that awareness of who you really want to become, then it's way easier. So, stop this video, write this down. And that is exactly what the Be Do Have method is. And I love this method. I love to explain it to people. Because what we're often doing is we have the reverse. We often go have, do, be. So what have, do, be is we often think, oh, when I have more control, I will do better. I will do better habits. I will try more. And then I will finally be someone who doesn't emotionally lead. So you are waiting for something that, first of all, isn't in, like, it's not just going to come to you having more control. That's not how it works. So you're waiting for that, something that's not just going to come for you, and then you will change, and then you will be the person. So it's not in your control at all. And that's why you keep on feeling like you're failing. But if you are thinking identity first thinking, you're thinking, when I be this person, the person you just described, when you are her, when you be her, when you do the things she does, when you think the way she thinks, when you be the person who trusts herself, you will do the things that matches that person we just described. The person you want to become, the person who doesn't emotionally eat. So when you already think that you are her, you do the things that she does, then you will have the food freedom. I'm gonna say it again. We have to have figured out the identity first. And then we have to do the actions before we can have the result. We can't expect the result, and then we can't expect the result without having this groundwork first. It is really about changing from within and going outside, instead of thinking outside and then going within. So you need to take that person you just imagined and really embody her, be her, feel like her. And it isn't enough to just be like her, but you have to do like her. The do part is really important also, because the do part also reinforces this identity, the be part. So the more you do the actions that this person, this identity would do, the more you become that identity, the more you become that woman. And the more evidence you build up that you actually are this person. So, very important that we go be to have, not have to be. Great. So, I want you to ask yourself, who do I need to be today? Even in just a small way, like it doesn't have to be anything crazy, to align with the version of me who no longer emotionally eats. Who do you need to be? Do you need to be someone who maybe really listens to this masterclass and takes in the learnings I'm giving you? Do you need to be someone who implements these things? Do you need to be someone who actually writes down these things? Do you need to be someone who maybe pauses before she eats? Who do you need to be today to align with the version who no longer emotionally eats? Again, pause it, be that person, and write it down. So, now we're going to get into your emotional eating toolkit. So this is something I often build out with my clients also, alongside them. And it's so drastically different from person to person. But what your emotional eating toolkit really is is just something you can turn to when you really want to eat. When you really feel stressed and all you want to do is just escape by eating, by doom scrolling, by doing something else. But then you always have this toolkit you can turn to, and if one of the tools doesn't work, then maybe another one does. And what I often get my clients to do is simply write it down, have it a note in your phone or on a piece of paper if you're more of the analog type. So you can always turn to it. So you always have it. Don't just have it in your mind. Actually write it down. Because the moment it then feels hard, you can just literally go on your phone, look at it and think, okay, is there something from this list that I can do now before I eat? And that's also something I teach people, that it doesn't necessarily be that you have to do these things and then not ever emotionally eat again. That's not how it works. But having it as a rule that you have to at least do one of the things on this list before you turn to whatever else you want, before you emotionally eat, before you overeat, before you give into the craving. Then you have to do one of these things and then sit with it for a little while instead of just going directly. Because what this does, it creates a pause. Instead of just unconsciously going into eating, you're creating a stop block and oh, okay, I have to do one of these things. And that creates more calmness in your nervous system. So, what can some of these things be? First of all, we need to create safety and regulation. There's different ways to do this. I put 2 here, but there's many more. So, there's one thing called bilateral tapping. And it's basically where you just take your hands like a butterfly and you tap them here. And what this does, and it's the same as bilateral, it's just bilateral movement really also. And that's also what happens when you're walking, because you're using both sides of your body. And when you do this, you're using both sides of your brain, which calms your nervous system. And we really want our nervous system to be calm. Because when you really want to emotionally eat, when you really want to escape, it's because your nervous system isn't regulated. It isn't feeling safe. It's feeling really unsafe. Maybe you're really stressed. Maybe you're really sad. Maybe you're really angry. You aren't safe. You're operating in your, like we talked about, your monkey brain, your child brain. You're not operating in CEO brain because you feel unsafe. But you can tap back into the CEO brain by making yourself feel safer. Another way to do this is breathwork. So like we did in the beginning, there's a reason I'm doing that. It is to get you grounded and feeling safe in your body. And breathwork is one of the most amazing ways to do that. And it doesn't have to be a long time. It can be a couple of minutes of just breathing intentionally. And there's no right or wrong when it comes to breathwork. It is just breathing intentionally. Instead of the shallow breathing we often do, which sits in the chest, moving the breath down to your stomach and really breathing in that way. Breathing in through the nose, feeling your stomach rise out, feeling it collapse. And just doing that for a couple of minutes. That's some great ways to create safety. Other ways could be taking a hot shower, warm shower. That also really creates safety and regulate your nervous system. Maybe getting a massage. That's another way to really calm down that brain. Because we can't make any rational decisions if we are living in the monkey brain, if we are in this childlike brain. We can't expect ourselves to not emotionally eat, especially if it's something you have turned to for many, many years, if we don't feel safe. So you can't just tomorrow go do the same things throughout the day, maybe feeling really stressed. You come home and you're like, no, I'm not going to do it today. That's not how it works. Because you're not safe enough in your body to not do it. You're not regulated enough. So that's the first step of anything, is finding something that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel regulated, that is not food. Because for many, it is food that is regulating you. That is what's happening when you're eating, when you come home. It's not, again, something bad. It is creating that safety. And your body knows how to do that fast via food because you're so used to it. Or for some, it's doom scrolling or whatever. But finding other ways like the bilateral tapping, doing breath work, taking a hot shower, maybe laying a puzzle, or like reading a book, something that calms your nervous system that isn't like food or screen time. So write down all the different things that you know makes you feel really good and really like calm. Write them all down on this list of yours. So that's the first part of your emotional eating toolkit, is we want to create the safety and the regulation. And then next, we want to create awareness. I wrote that wrong, but it's okay. We want to create awareness. Because often when we are emotionally eating, we are just going, like we're not even thinking about it. We're just doing it very unconsciously. So that can also mean we often end up just eating unconsciously because we're so used to just eating food. And we don't really have this awareness around food. So having some different things to create more of an awareness of how am I actually feeling in my body right now? Because that's another thing. If you're so used to just eating based on your emotions or shaming yourself for eating, or maybe you're restricting throughout the entire day, not really eating much, and then you eat a lot at night, you can't know your hunger signals. And I bet a lot of you aren't really sure when you're hungry or when you're full, and you're not really sure how that actually feels. So creating that awareness of how am I actually feeling in my body right now? Am I hungry? Is it just because I'm really stressed? What is actually happening? Am I full? Creating that awareness. And some different things you can do to do that is, I love the hunger scale. So the hunger scale, I made this photo via, I did not notice that. I made this photo via AI, Gemini, I needed a photo. And I thought it looked cool, but that's not how it is. Obviously, it's like a scale from 1 to 10. I don't know what's happening here. All right. But having like a scale from 1 to 10. Before you sit down to eat, go tune into your body and say, where on this scale am I right now? 10 being, I'm really fucking hungry, I need to eat. 1 being, I'm not hungry at all, I'm actually kind of full. Tune in, like, where do you think you are? And it's okay that you don't really know it, just kind of guess, like, I think I might be a 6 right now. And then eat some, and then when you're done eating, before going back for seconds, again, ask yourself, where am I on this hunger scale right now? Did I get, like, I feel more full now? Where am I? And you can use this before every meal and after every meal to create more an awareness of, okay, am I actually hungry right now? Or am I just eating because I really feel stressed? And if we are eating because we really feel stressed, then it's about, going back to the safety and the regulation instead of maybe eating. So create this, like, also if you're coming home after a long day, and you've had plenty of food throughout the day, you shouldn't actually feel hungry, but you really just want to eat, tune into yourself, okay, where am I? Do I actually want food? Or do I want something else? Is there something else I'm craving right now? And this isn't about, like, I hate the people who are like, oh, you shouldn't eat if you don't want an apple. Those, like, that kind of saying is, you're not really hungry unless you want an apple instead of what you're actually craving. That's not what I mean. Like, that's not what you should be doing here. You're totally allowed to feel hungry and want food, and even though you don't want an apple, But it is just, again, like creating that connection to your own body and like, what am I actually feeling right now in my own body? Because we can get so disconnected from it, if you have like struggled with emotional eating for years or years or years. Another method I love is put it on a plate method. So it basically just means that if you want something, if you want a muffin, if you want a cookie, if you want something, Then you put it on a plate and you sit down at a table and you don't have any distractions. Do not look at your phone. Do not do it like mindlessly while you are watching Netflix, because that's where it can get easy to also eat like an entire packet because you're not even thinking about it. So let's say you really want a cookie. You don't have to be hungry to want a cookie. You just want a cookie. Then put it on a plate and sit down and eat it. And tune into, how does this cookie feel? Take the bite, really sit with the bite, get like aware of, okay, how does this cookie feel? What flavors am I experiencing? What feelings am I experiencing in my body? And really tune into your body while you're eating whatever this is you want to eat. So instead of just taking all the food with you, instead of bringing the entire bag of chips to the couch and watching some Netflix, and then all of a sudden the entire bag is eaten, then just put some on a plate and go eat them, Like, just put it on a plate instead of just mindlessly snacking. Also, if you are mindlessly snacking, if you are cooking some food, instead of mindlessly snacking on the food, just put that food on a plate and get more like aware of the food you're eating. So those are some of the tools I love for creating more awareness around food and around your hunger signals. And then I really want you, this is important, like, get curious. I love thinking from this frame of like, you're just a scientist and your life and your body are just the experiment. So whatever you're doing, you can't fail, because when you're doing an experiment, you're not failing if something goes wrong. It's just data. It's literally just data. So like, what will happen if I don't eat? Get curious instead of like hating your way, like, oh, you can't eat today. You shouldn't eat this cookie. What will happen if you don't eat? Does this nourish or punish my body? Get curious. Have I eaten a proper meal recently? Is that why I actually want this like cookie or muffin or whatever? Is it because I haven't eaten protein the last 5 hours? What caused me to overeat in this moment? Again, what need wasn't met? Where does this urge come from? Is there something else I'm actually craving? And then if you ever, overeat, if you emotionally eat, instead of beating yourself up over it, have compassion and be fucking curious. And I love to see it from this way because, again, it removes the shame, it removes the guilt, because it's just data. Everything you do in life is just data. So if you have emotional eat, it's just a data point of like, okay, what happened? Why did I do that? Okay, now I know. Great, we can take that with us for the next time. And then just like, again, get really curious. I love to look at it through this lens and having this as one of the tools in the toolkit. And it's not as much an actionable tool, but it is a great way to reframe it of like, okay, what actually happened here? I'm not a failure. It's just a data point. There was just something I missed, and now I know that. Like, get curious about, what was it that I missed? What happened? Was I really stressed and I hadn't eaten all day? Okay, of course I'm then gonna like overeat and emotionally eat, and that's okay. We know that for next time, that I know to have more food with me throughout the day, or take more breaks throughout the day. So get curious. And then the way you're speaking to yourself is another great tool you can utilize, because your identity is shaped by the words you speak. So I want you to shift your words from I call it like 2 different languages. So you have your conflict language and your architect language. Conflict is what is keeping you stuck. This conflict language. Architect is what you use to build the life you want to have. So instead of saying, I always binge, I always overeat, I always emotionally eat, then you say, I am learning to trust myself again. Instead of saying, I failed again. Failed is like negative. You said, I simply had an urge. Instead of saying, I can never stay consistent, you say, my body is simply just trying to protect me. So what I want you to do is write down all these like negative phrases and words you might be using I never do this, I can't do that. And then find like, what can you say instead? And really utilize that on a daily basis, how you're speaking. So every time you you catch yourself saying something like negative about yourself, then just again stop up and be like, oh no, this is actually not how I want to respond to myself right now, and then change it. And the more you do that, the more you speak in this new language of more compassion, the more your identity also gets shaped based on that. So this is one of my favorite like tools to use, and it's called the messy action matrix. And we use this a lot inside of my coaching program. But it is basically taking different scenarios and then creating a plan. Because if we have a plan, it's way harder to fail when something doesn't go to plan, because then you have different like steps you can do. So let's say, and this doesn't just apply to emotional eating, this is literally everything. But let's say you are planning to, you really want to, do a full workout, you want to do a full meal prep. That is maybe something you can do if you have like good mood and you have a lot of time. But what can you do if you have not a lot of time, but you have really good mood? Then you can maybe meal prep one dish. And if you have a low mood and but a lot of time, you can journal, you can brain dump. And if you have really, like, you really have a day where you're not feeling very good, instead of just like turning to food, turning to scrolling, then what is something you can do when you have low time, you don't have that much time, and you don't have any energy really? Doing a 2-minute reset, like doing some breath work, like I mentioned, bilateral tapping. That is something you can do almost every day, even though you have no energy, because it takes 2 minutes. So this messy action matrix is something you can use for different scenarios of your life. Like, create this matrix for different areas of, okay, this is like the ideal. Of course, I would love to do this, but that's just not possible all the time. So if I don't have that much time, what can I then do instead? And if I also don't have that much energy, what can I then do? And if I don't have much energy, but I have a lot of time, what can I then do? Because then you can never fail, I can't do that right now. Great. I'm going to go to my matrix. Okay, great. I'll do this one then, because I don't have that much energy or don't have that much time. I'll do that one. And then you have still done something for yourself. You've still chosen yourself. You haven't just automatically turned to food or automatically turned to scrolling, because you have all of these options. Because the more options you have, the less likely you are to fail, basically. So write down your own messy action matrix, and you can do it for different things. Like, you can do it for movement, for nutrition, for stress management, for really everything. But write it down and like have it nearby somewhere. Maybe have it in your journal, or in a journal, or on your phone, whatever. And this is also something I help my clients, build out, because it can be hard quite like sometimes to figure out, okay, what should actually go in the different matrix. That's obviously very individual, and something I often help my clients, brainstorm about. So that is a more actionable tool that I love. And then this one, the law of reverse efforts. I put this in because this really helped me a lot. When we are eating, emotional eating, it is often like a rebellious part of us, like, oh, I'm just going to do it, And rebels do not want to be ruled over. So don't rule over it. Try something different. Because what often happens when we are emotional eating is we're trying to control it. It's like you're trying to control a teenager. A teenager do not want to be controlled. So they're just going to rebel even more. So whenever you try to control your emotional eating, restrict more, like really like have rules around it, then it's just going to rebel even more. So instead of always planning to eat less, eat less throughout the day, plan to eat more. You're kind of tricking your brain, reverse psychology. Like you're tricking this like rebel inside of you. Because if you're actively planning to eat more, then your brain doesn't have any reason to rebel, because you're not trying to control it. You're giving it what it wants. And what I saw when I did it is that often when you plan to eat more, you actually end up eating less than if you plan to eat less. And I know it can sound weird, but just try it. Like, really plan to eat more throughout the day. And then also just letting go. Sometimes we can obsess so much about fixing something, about fixing this relationship with food or with our bodies, recovering from these things. And we can obsess so much about it and how to do it that you can't fix it, because you're doing too much. You're thinking about it too much. So what I want you to do is, instead of constantly obsessing about fixing your relationship, what is the right thing to do, what is the wrong thing to do, just let go. Imagine like doing the things you would do when you're no longer is trying to, fix your relationship with food. One of those things you would do if you're no longer trying to fix your relationship with food. And then do them. And just say to yourself, trick your brain, just say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, I am not gonna think about emotional eating. I'm not gonna think about fixing it. I'm not gonna think about it at all. I'm just gonna do what I would do if I was already, had a perfect relationship with food. And I'm just gonna put it on pause. So it's not like we're saying, oh, we're not gonna do it, because the work is important. But just like saying to your brain, okay, next 2 weeks, we are not gonna stress about it whatsoever. We're just gonna go about our lives, doing the things we'll do if we were already fine. And sometimes that could be the thing that switches. Because then all of a sudden you're not constantly focusing on it. You're just letting go, and you're just letting yourself be, instead of having expectations around what you should do, what you shouldn't do. I remember when I did this. And it's just a day, and honestly I was just sick and tired of never having, I couldn't figure out how to fix my relationship with food. And I was just constantly trying. I was at that point where I was trying to just eat more. I was trying to not say no to things. I was trying, because that was what everyone was telling me to do. But I was just so sick and tired, because it never worked. I always ended up, binge eating or overeating at night, and it never really worked. So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just gonna let myself be and not stress about what I'm doing. And when I did that, that really helped. That created, just again, the law of reverse effort. It's reverse psychology. Then all of a sudden I didn't stress about that much, which then meant that it was easier for me to actually heal my relationship with food. So it can sound scary and it can sound contradictory, but honestly, try it. And then one of the last things I want to touch on is that, because often when we try to heal emotional eating, it's often these different two camps. So either it is you have to say yes to every food, and just allow yourself to eat every food, because then your brain eventually sees it as something that is not scarcity anymore. And the other camp is you just have to say no to the food. You just have to keep it out of the house. The chocolate, just have it out of the house. So it's these two different camps, and I don't like either of those. Because it's okay to say no, but it's also okay to say yes. You should be able to have the foods in your house and say no to them. So what I want you to do is to think about it like this. Instead, if there is cake at the office, and you feel deep down inside, you don't really want it right now, but you also feel this kind of slight anxiety if you say no. Because if you're so used to restricting, and you're finally at a place where you're allowing yourself to have things, every time you say no, you feel that restriction coming up again. Oh, I can't have this. And then we're back again in the bad or good foods, yes or no. So instead of saying yes or no to food, instead of saying no to the chocolate cake, if you feel like you actually don't really want it. Like you've checked in with yourself, you created safety, you don't really want it. But you also feel kind of anxious saying no to it. Because when we're saying yes and no, that's where we're creating this scarcity in your brain. You know, you're creating this like, no, I can't have it. Then your brain is like, oh, we can never have, like, why can't I have the chocolate cake? You're saying I can't have it, then I need to have it because you're saying I can't have it. But if you shift that to saying it's a now thing or it's a not now thing. So instead of saying, no, I don't want the chocolate cake, saying to yourself, it's okay. We don't have to have the chocolate cake right now. I don't want it right now. Because that doesn't mean you can't ever have it. You can always, the moment you realize that you can always, like you're the creator of your own life, you can always go down to Tesco and buy some chocolate cake if you want to. Like, you don't have to have it just because it's there. You don't have to have the cake at the office just because it's there. You have the power to just get it later if you want it then. Because it's not a yes or no, it's a now versus not now decision. So I'm choosing not to have this right now, or I'm choosing to have this now. And that shifts it away from like it having to be a yes or a no, like saying no all the time to every food or saying yes to every food all the time. Just being like, do I want this, truly want this right now, or do I actually not want it right now? And then being fine with whatever the answer is. And sometimes we also get stuck in like over-analyzing. Sometimes you really just have to trust your gut. Like, what feels good right now? And learning to trust yourself again. That your gut feeling is there to protect you, and it knows often what is the good thing to do, what is the right thing to do for you in that moment. Then lastly, celebrating the small wins. And I put this in because I think sometimes when we are stuck in this emotional eating cycle, it can be very hard to celebrate the wins. Because we feel like it isn't a win unless we had an entire day or an entire week or an entire month without emotional eating. But that's not true. Maybe you had one little moment throughout the day where you actually stopped up before you ate and listened to your body. That's a huge win. You maybe chose one of the things from your emotional eating toolkit before you ate. Maybe you still ended up emotionally eating, but you created that awareness before. Maybe you used the hunger scale. Everything can really be seen as a win. So instead of always seeing everything as a failure, shift it to seeing everything as a win. And every little thing you're doing can really be a win, if you want it to be. So I want you to, going forward, every day, celebrate the small little wins. Because the more those wins are reinforced, the better you feel about, the more kind of hyped up you feel about continuing. Instead of, if all you're seeing throughout the day are your failures, then you don't want to continue. You don't feel the motivation to really keep going. But if you focus on the wins, if you let that be in the forefront of your mind, then you feel, motivated to keep going with this, even though it feels hard. So I want you to really, focus on that, celebrate the small wins. So I want you to ask yourself, every night or every day, where did I improve today? In what area or situation did I listen more to my body? And then just find even the smallest thing and write that down every single day. Every single evening, just ask yourself this. Where did I have a slight improvement today? And in what area or situation did I listen more to my body? And celebrate that. Hype yourself up, saying yes, fuck yes, I did that. I'm so good. So important. So, that was the end of the masterclass. Now, I want to talk a bit about, obviously, I have a coaching service. If all the things we've talked about, the emotional eating toolkit, actually creating this new identity, because it can be quite hard work. if that's something you would like one-on-one help with, then I have a coaching service called Thrive Not Deprive, where we really embody these things amongst a lot of other different things. But if you're struggling with emotional eating, it can be beneficial to get help with it, because it can be hard to go through alone. And maybe sometimes it can be hard to recognize the small wins. So having someone alongside you who can help you do this is beneficial. So if that's something you want to do, if you've ever considered that, of investing into yourself, then I would love to have you on board. The fact that you have been with me in this masterclass these past couple of days is showing to me that you are the type of person that I would love to work with, because you are choosing yourself, which is the most important thing. And what is really what you're doing when you are investing into yourself, it is just about choosing yourself. And choosing that you want to get better and you want to improve yourself. So if that's something you want to do, then we either have a 6-month or a 12-month package, and you can see the prices here. And I'm very transparent about my prices, because that is how I buy myself. I don't like to gatekeep anything. I don't like to having to go through multiple different calls just to get to know the price. I just want to know it, and then I trust myself enough and I respect myself enough that if it makes sense, I will invest in myself. So that is why I'm also showing you the prices, if anyone cared. But we have a 6-month package over here and a 12-month package. So if you are interested in this, if you're interested in taking your health a step further, really healing this emotional eating for good, then just DM me Thrive on Instagram. Reach out to me and we can set up a call to make sure we are the perfect fit, to make sure you are a fit for the coaching service, and that we would be the right ones to support you in this journey. So that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed these 2 days. I really enjoyed doing the 2 days. I felt it was like so transformative, and I'm so glad that I get to share the things that helped me, and I really hope it can help someone else. So I hoped that it helped you. If it did help you in any way, and if you have any like insights, any revelations, anything you felt that was like, oh, this was really good, this is gonna help me, do feel free to like send me a message, tell me about it. I would love to hear about it. I am always open for feedback. So if you have anything, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. Just again, find me on Instagram, send me a message. I am always there to have a conversation. So I am so glad to have been able to host you here for the past couple of days. And obviously I do hope we get to work together. But if you have any questions whatsoever, do feel free to just send over a message. I am looking forward to hearing from you. And otherwise, I hope that you have an amazing day and that these things really help you.